China is vast, the third largest nation in the world, stretching well beyond the core territories of the Han Chinese. Modern borders encompass the homelands of Tibetans, Uyghurs, and southern Mongolians, peoples who have long struggled to preserve their cultures, languages, and religions against pressures of assimilation. But how did these groups become part of the Chinese state in the first place? If the 19th century was China's century of humiliation, the 18th was its century of conquest. While Europe colonized the Americas and beyond, the Qing Dynasty expanded China's borders farther than ever, bringing Mongolia's grasslands, Tibet's monasteries, and East Turkestan's oasis cities under its rule. For thousands of years, Chinese civilization spread from the Yellow River Valley, assimilating neighboring tribes. Expansion stopped at natural barriers, seas to the east and south, and the vast steppes of Inner Asia to the north and west. These steppes, deserts and tundra, were unsuitable for Chinese agriculture and home to mounted nomads who became China's historic adversaries. For centuries, Chinese policy focused on defending against these barbarians through diplomacy, submission, or defensive walls. Conquest attempts rarely lasted. Nomads were too mobile. In fact, it was often the nomads who conquered China, most famously the Mongols, who established the Yuan dynasty in the 13th century. When the Ming overthrew them, they returned to defensive policies, unable to expand China's borders sustainably. This changed with the rise of China's final imperial dynasty, the Qing. The Qing originated with the Jurchens of Northeast Asia, later called the Manchus. Under Nurhaci and his successors, they unified their people, and taking advantage of Ming collapse, captured Beijing in 1644 and conquered the rest of China. By the 19th century, they ruled not only Han Chinese, but also Mongols, Uyghurs, Tibetans, and many Inner Asian peoples. At its height, the Qing Empire spanned over 13 million square kilometers, 3 times the Ming domain. Why did the Qing pursue such aggressive expansion? The answer was the Mongols. Even after the fall of the Mongol Empire, various Mongol confederations remained dangerous. Southern Mongolia was dominated by Ligdan Khan, who sought to revive the empire of Chinggis Khan. The Manchus defeated him in the 1630s, securing southern Mongol allegiance. Later, the Qing faced the powerful Dzungar Khanate, led by Galdan, who was legitimized by the Dalai Lama and sought to unite all Mongols. Galdan expanded into the Tarim Basin, conquering Uyghur cities before invading Khalkha Mongol lands. This brought him into conflict with the Qing. After a decade of war, Emperor Kangxi personally led campaigns, defeating Galdan in 1696. With the Dzungars checked, northern Mongol tribes swore loyalty to the Qing, just as southern Mongols had earlier. Unlike earlier dynasties, the Qing could match nomads militarily. Their 8-banner system produced highly skilled cavalry comparable to Mongol warriors. The Qing also benefited from Russia's rise. Nomads fleeing north encountered Cossacks, limiting their maneuverability. But diplomacy was just as critical. The Qing integrated Mongols into their empire by incorporating them into the 8 banners, arranging aristocratic marriages, and leveraging intertribal rivalries. Many Mongols fought for the Qing, not against them. Tibet had long been tied to Mongol politics. Since 1642, the Koshut Khanate nominally ruled Tibet, but left real power with the Dalai Lama. By the 17th century, the Dalai Lamas wielded enormous influence across Buddhist Mongolia, making their support vital. The Dalai Lama's alignment with the Dzungars troubled the Qing. In 1717, the Dzungars invaded Tibet, seizing Lhasa. The Qing responded, expelling them by 1724 and establishing control over Tibet, while Qinghai was incorporated soon after. The final showdown came in the mid-18th century. Following civil war within the Dzungar Khanate, Emperor Qianlong launched campaigns that destroyed the confederation. By 1758, the Dzungars were eradicated, and their lands, together with Uyghur territories, were annexed as Xinjiang, New Frontier. The Qing ensured the Dzungars could never rise again through a brutal genocide. It is estimated that 70% of the Dzungar population perished through massacre and disease, reducing their numbers from 600,000 to under 200,000. With Xinjiang secured, the Qing controlled all Mongol peoples within striking distance of China, ending 2 millennia of nomadic incursions. To govern such a diverse empire, the Qing implemented a dual system. Han Chinese provinces were ruled directly, while outer regions were administered indirectly through local rulers. In Mongolia, hereditary princes governed under Qing oversight. Uyghur communities were led by Islamic beys. Tibet remained under the Dalai Lama, now supervised by Qing authorities. These arrangements were managed by the Lifan Yuan, the Imperial Office for Frontier Affairs. The Qing wisely avoided forcing Chinese culture on their subjects. Instead, emperors adopted multiple identities: Confucian rulers for Han Chinese, Bodhisattva-like figures for Tibetans, and great Khans for Mongols. This flexible, multicultural strategy helped stabilize their vast empire. Initially, the Qing restricted Han migration into frontier lands to prevent overwhelming minority populations. However, explosive population growth in China, from 180 million to 430 million between the 18th and 19th centuries, made enforcement impossible. Famines and crises drove millions of Han settlers into Manchuria, Mongolia, and Xinjiang. By the 20th century, Manchuria was thoroughly Sinicized, and Han settlers were numerous in Mongolia and Xinjiang. While Mongols and Uyghurs retained more cultural distinctiveness, they too saw demographic changes that diluted their dominance in their homelands. By the late 19th century, the Qing were in decline, beset by internal crises and foreign imperialism. The dynasty collapsed in 1911, replaced by the Republic of China. Despite chaos from warlords, Japanese invasion, and civil war, the territories incorporated under the Qing largely remained under Chinese control. Exceptions included Outer Mongolia, which became an independent socialist republic under Soviet influence, and parts of Manchuria ceded to Russia. But Tibet, Xinjiang, and Inner Mongolia stayed within China's orbit. Today, these regions remain autonomous regions within the People's Republic of China. Unlike in Qing times, the Han are now both the political elite and demographic majority. Minority groups face pressures to assimilate, their struggles a legacy of imperial expansion.